Morning. It's Monday, the 10th of February, and one of the things that you read regularly if you are reading about writing, which I often do, is that people will say, you can't write if you don't read. And I really do think this is true. And I think it's true from when I was a teacher. If children weren't interested in reading, weren't really absorbing stories, weren't enjoying the fact that they had to read their reading book and things like that, they probably weren't really going to enjoy writing. They probably weren't really going to want to sit down and create stories of their own. So it's sort of an obvious thing, really, isn't it? If you're not really interested in English and stories, then you're not really going to read or write, particularly for pleasure. But if you do absorb yourself with stories, if you have stories read to you from a really young age, as in pre-birth even, if you are happy to curl up with a book, the chances are you might not want to then go on and be a novelist, but you'll probably find it easier to know how sentences are constructed without someone actually teaching you about adverbs and verbs and nouns and things. You'll sort of have the flow in your head from all the stories you've read because they just wash over you and you get the gist without being taught. So I do think from a teacher point of view, if you don't read stories, you're going to struggle more to write stories. Not that you can't be taught, but it really is the biggest help. But it's the same with adults who write as well, like me. I realised, I think maybe November time was the last time I read a fiction book. I generally have something on the go all the time. And when I'm busy writing, I'm reading less, which is not fun. But I've been reading non-fiction. I got a few books over Christmas, which were non-fiction, which are very good. But I've not read a novel for ages. In fact, the last novel I read was Julie Cooper's Rivals. I reread it after the TV show. And I think it's all very well me saying, as a teacher, you should, children read, it's good for their writing. As an adult, it's really good for your writing and also your mental health in general. So I started to read a novel on Friday afternoon. I ended up being on a bus for ages, so I just downloaded it already. It was on my phone, so I just started to read it. And I've just been sucked into it this weekend, and it's really fun. It's really enjoyable. I don't want to finish it too soon because I'm enjoying it so much. I read a bit last night before I went to bed. I really want to read it again today, but I've got loads of work to do. I know I'm happy. I will share the novel now. It's called A New Chapter at the Borrower Bookshop. It's by Kylie Dunbar. I read all of her books, and they're really lovely romantic novels. Escapist, really sort of modern day though, not kind of old and twee. Escapist, beautiful characters, setting, location, plot, all lovely. And I've just reminded myself by reading that, starting it on the bus on Friday, reminded myself that, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is good. And just being able to sort of sink into another world and see how someone else has put the sentences together, then obviously I won't be copying. It's nothing to do with that. But that then takes me into a better place when I'm starting writing my next chapters, because I've got the sort of the flow of interesting sentences in my head already. It feels like it'll be less like pulling teeth. So that's my point today, really. You don't have to be a novelist to read books at all. But the idea that sort of sentences and other worlds can kind of swirl around your head and take you away from somewhere, whether you're going to then go and write your own stories or whether you're just going to go and back to your job that's not anything to do with writing, it's such a nice thing to do. It's such a pleasure to do. And I need to remember to do it more, certainly with fiction. I read so much non-fiction, not just books, but I read so much news. And I like that. I like being informed. I like being on top of stuff. And I'll read, a million Substacks about different policies in the US. I'll read a million Substacks about what Keir Starmer's doing. And all that's fine and it's useful and it's interesting. But reading really good, interesting, take you away from all this fiction is the best, and I'd forgotten about it for a few months. So that's what I'm saying today. Fiction, yay! Obviously I would say that. Hope you're having a nice week. It's Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day on Friday, which is making me laugh because I think it's not for me. That's the best phrase. I was going to say it's silly. It's not. If you like it, it's great, but it's not for me. Which makes me laugh that I'm actually reading a romance novel at the moment. But yes, whatever you do, have a nice time, a nice week. And my blog will be dropping in the next hour or so after I've filmed this. And that's Nikki Bond and Writers Ramblings. If you want to find my own books, it's nikkibond.com. And I'll be back next week. Have a lovely week. Okay, bye-bye.